Hello, this is Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Model Building and Retirement channel. So we're taking a little diversion from wintertime here, and I got my feet in a nice warm sand on the beach, and we got some righteous waves going in the background. And I'm going to show you how I built this 1957 Chevy Nomad surfer wagon, and we'll get into it right after the intro.
Sponsored by Model Makers Workshop. Need parts for your next model project? Model Makers Workshop has you covered with the best aftermarket accessories around. And by Gaahleri, your one-stop shopping for all your airbrush needs.
So this is the Monogram 1957 Chevy Nomad re-release. Not the best detailed kit in the world, but I had a lot of fun building it. The moment I picked this off the shelf, I pictured it as a surfer wagon because I had the surfboard and the roof rack as spare parts already, and I was waiting for the perfect kit to go to on that. And then I picked up the car kit, and as soon as I picked up the kit, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew it had to be a Patina looking surfer car, so a lot of fun building this. It's always fun because you can throw in a lot of experimental stuff into a Patina build. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so we're going to do the unboxing of the Monogram 1957 Chevy Nomad. So let's get the box open and see what we got. We got an empty box. Folks, I could have sworn I did an unboxing video. Somehow, I don't know what happened to the footage, but I don't have it anymore. So, I'm sure you've seen enough of those, but we do have the Monogram 57 Chevy Nomad instructions. And this is pretty nice. It's got the color codes. It's almost like a Revell kit here, instructions, because you got your colors for your color codes. You got a big list of your part names. So that's nice. Usually you don't see that in an AMT or a Monogram kit. In fact, there's 2 pages of parts list. And then you got all your little assemblies. You got your engine, and you got a stock or custom option. Rear suspension, underbody, front suspension, tires and wheel combo, interior pieces, hood pieces, glass, radiator support, final assembly, and front ends and rear end decorations, and decal placement. So we have a little bit of that to look at. So kit does come with decals. Let's take a look at those real quick. All right, so you got your flame decals and some license plates. You got California black plate and a yellow Illinois 57 Nomad plate. And that's it. So I apologize for not catching that on camera, but we'll continue with the build anyways. So from the moment I picked up this kit, I envisioned it to have a patina paint job and be a surfer wagon. I could just imagine it being parked in the sand by the beach with a surfboard on top, nice shiny surfboard, nice shiny wheels and tires, and then the rest of the car just being all patinaed out. Not rusted out, just faded out. So I got the body all prepped here. I went ahead and rescribed all the panel lines and sanded down the mold lines and mold separation marks and removed any flashing, and then just gave the entire car a good sanding with 800 grit sandpaper before I go to primer. Okay, so we're at the booth, and I'm using Mr. Surfacer 1000 out of a rattle can. Shook that up really, really good. And I'm just going to give that 2 light to medium coats, making sure I cover all the areas, top and bottom. I gave it about 3 to 5 minutes before I went with the second coat, and again, it's light to medium coats. Then I gave the Mr. Surfacer about an hour to cure, and then I gave it 2 coats of a Rust-Oleum red oxide primer, and that is just to get an underlying red oxide color down for my Patina paint job. Okay, so after spraying the Rust-Oleum red oxide, I let the car sit for about 24 hours for that paint to cure. And what I did is I gathered up a bunch of my craft paints. These are acrylic water-based craft paints, and just a variation of colors here. I've got light tans and browns and chestnut, and I've got red brick, and I've got black, and I've got graphite. Just a hodgepodge of colors that I think would look good as an underlying paint for the body. And then next I tear off a little piece of sponge, and I have some paper standing by, and I'll take a little bit of the craft paint and I'll just put it on my paper there, and I will blot my sponge right into the paint and then kind of blot it dry on my paper. So once I blotted out my sponge to where it was not super saturated, I just randomly started tapping it along the entire body, kind of in a random pattern all throughout the top sections and the side of the body and whatnot. And once I got a good coating of that, I went with some more colors. So this time I went with a medium brown and mixed it with a little bit of charcoal. And it really doesn't matter. You just grab colors that look like they're earth tones or whatnot. So I used a little bit of medium brown and a little bit of graphite and kind of stirred that up and sponged that out. And once again, once it's been blotted out to where it's not super saturated, I began randomly hitting the car again, going in and between and even on top of my original blotting. And then I went with a little bit of black and mixed it with some more red oxide from a different bottle, water-based stuff. Stirred that up and repeated the entire process once again. And then I went with a little bit of medium brown and a little bit of charcoal and repeated the cycle one more time. And now I'm going with a little bit of dark red brick. Another good color is burnt umber, by the way. And once again, just going to splot that all around and just continue on the body. And I'm just going to fast forward the rest of this footage while I'm doing the patina. And you're just going to see I use the variations of color until I just establish a really nice base. That's going to look good when I reveal that underneath the paint. And at one point, I even introduced a little bit of blue. Okay, so I finally get to the point where I'm satisfied with the underlying base coat there. So we have a nice multicolored surface here. So when we do our top coat of color, and then we will be sanding and removing some of that, we'll be able to reveal these colors underneath to some degree. And not in all places, it'll be kind of random. So looks pretty good. You could actually finish with this if you wanted to have a really rusted out patina car. Okay, so now that I got all my base colors into place, I want to seal those in so that they will remain permanent when I do my other top coat and procedures. So I'm going to seal this in with Kaleido acrylic varnish semi-gloss. And you could use matte, you could use gloss, it really doesn't matter at this point. The whole idea of it is just to seal this in so that it cannot be reactivated with water at a later stage as we remove the top coat. So I'm just going to shake that up really good. It's ready to spray. Needs no thinning unless you want to add a little bit of retarder just to keep it nice and wet. So we'll meet you at the booth. So once I got to the booth, I did decide to use a little bit of that retarder thinner. So what I did is I filled up my bowl, and then I added about 10 drops of retarder to the entire bowl. So it's not a very diluted mix at all. And the whole purpose of the retarder is just to let that flow out a little bit and not dry too fast as you're spraying it. And then since it's in the bowl, I'm just mixing it up with a pipette. I'm sucking from the bottom and then just spraying it right back into the bowl and just kind of mixing that up. Another way you could do it is just put a rag in front of your needle and back flush as if you were going to clean your airbrush. And then I'm going to apply 2 medium wet coats. So this is coat number 1. So once the clear coat is cured overnight, I'm just going to smooth that over a little bit to smooth out the bumps. So I'm going to use a little bit of 5000 Trizact wet sanded and just smooth that over a little bit before I go to the next step. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a 2-tone paint job on this. And my top is going to be white. So I'm going to be using Kaleido white. And this is ready to spray. And I plan on spraying it on very lightly, actually, because I want a lot of this patina to show up. And I was going to go baby blue, but I really want to go with a pale yellow. So a little bit later in the process, I'm going to try to tint this with some white to get a pale yellow for the body. But for right now, it's time to get that white on the top and go for patina paint job. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to be using the salt technique. And I'm using sea salt here. My normal go-to on my patina jobs, excuse me for reaching over in front of the camera here. My normal go-to is Elmer's School Glue, where I apply it just like I did my multicolors with a sponge. But this time I want to try the sea salt to get a more dramatic chipping effect. So what I'm going to do, and I'm using this pail to keep things clean, a little drop of Dawn in here to just break up the surface tension a little bit. Because the water's kind of beating up. Yeah, just that one dot of Dawn dish soap broke that surface tension of that water and is allowing me to paint on a nice wet top here. Okay, so top is wet. And I'm just going to start sprinkling salt across that roof. This is why it's messy. This is why I have that pail there. It's very messy. I really should have stopped at this point. It was my first time working with the salt, but I got a little too carried away here and really overloaded it, and it just didn't work out well. And it's a very messy proposition. In hindsight, I really would prefer using my Elmer's glue method, but had I stuck with that little bit of salt before I dumped it on like this, I think I would have had a better result as well. So I'm going to let that just sit for a few seconds and begin to stick to the car, and then I'll tilt the car to get rid of some of the excess. Okay, so that salt has been sitting there for a few seconds, a minute or so. Now I'm just going to lightly spill some of this off. It's going to make a mess of my booth. It's one of the reasons I've been avoiding it. Okay, so I'll meet you at the booth. So I'm at the booth here, and I'm going to be shooting with my Mobius 0.3 millimeter airbrush. So I'm going to go with the white on the roof first. And do you see what just happened right there? So this has happened a few times before, and it's really beginning to tick me off. It's one of my complaints with the Mobius 0.3 millimeter is the front nozzle cover there. It has an O-ring on there. If you don't crank that down super tight, it sucks air in and just blows your paint right out of the bowl. It's happened to me enough where I should know that that's going to happen, but it still catches me off guard. So you can see I'm really tightening that up right now. But now I have a mess to clean up. Anyways, we'll get this cleaned up and we'll get back underway. Okay, so after cleaning up after that disaster, I'm going to give the roof a really light dusting, a couple light dustings with the white. And you can see what a mess this is. I have a liner of paper down in the bottom of my booth, but all that excess salt is blowing off with the air, and I did turn my air pressure down. Personally, for me, I knew the salt process was not going to be something I wanted to do, but I decided, well, you don't know until you try. In the future, when I do this, I will be using the Elmer's glue method as I have on my other patina paint jobs. And if you want to see how that's done, you can refer to one of my other videos, and I'll have a couple of those in my description. When I saw how messy that was going, and as I was spraying that roof, I knew I was going to go with the two-tone color there. And actually, the only transitional point you're going to see is the B pillar to the body. So I decided to go ahead and just mix up my color. It's a pale yellow, so I used about 10 milliliters of white Kaleido and about 3 drops of yellow, 3 or 4 drops of yellow, and it gave me this real nice pale yellow. So what I decided to do is go right into spraying the body, and once again I'm spraying very lightly, multiple coats. I'm not even going to wait for flashing in between. And then when I get to that B pillar there, I'm just going to go very tight with my airbrush so that I don't get a lot of overspray transition to the white there. But with my patina work that I'm going to be doing, I can further camouflage that, which you'll see. Okay, so once again, I let the paint cure up overnight, and I'm just going to take my little pail that I dumped my salt on in the first place, and just going to put that in there, and I'm going to use a toothbrush and just scrape off all the excess salt here, and that's just to remove the majority of it. We're going to be going to a wet method after this to further expose the patina. Okay, so now I'm going to just start exposing that patina. So I got some warm water with a drop of soap in it. And I'm going to start out with some 800 grit paper. I may have to get a little more aggressive. I always like to start out with my least aggressive and work my way back out if I have to. So first I'm going to just start sanding away on the roof line. First, I'm just going to use a toothbrush to finish scraping that while it's wet. You can sand as little or as much as you want. Now, compared to my other patina jobs, I do want to take this one a bit more than I normally do, because I never really get a good chance to see my underlying patina that I've done. And this one's going to do that. This one's going to show a lot more of that. And we could bounce around a little bit too. You know, I can expose some of the body here, get a feel for how far I want to take all of it. Because I sprayed it pretty darn lightly, the patina comes through pretty quickly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going around the body and exposing it little by little, and then just decide where and when I want to increase it. So next up, I am mocking up my surfboard and my roof rack, which I got this from a friend of mine, Joe, at Joe's New Rush Shop, in a bag of sprue parts that he gave me. So the day I saw these, it's like, okay, I'm gonna build a surfer wagon for sure. So I'm looking at the roof rack itself. I'm probably gonna shorten that up a little bit, and then I'll pin it and drill it, and I'll probably do spray chrome or brush chrome on that, and of course I'll weather that down. And then the surfboard itself, all I did was lightly sanded that down and masked a stripe right down the middle. So bare plastic, no primer, masked the stripe right down the middle, and I'm going to paint that with a nice contrasting sky blue from Tamiya, number X14. So what that'll be is, you know, the sky blue with a white stripe down the middle. Once that all cures up, then I'll do a 2K clear and have that extremely polished up and glossy, and that'll be a really nice, cool contrast to the car. All right, so I'm gonna paint that off the video. I'll do that on the side, and I'll come back after I get that sprayed so that we can unmask it and see what it looks like. Okay, so I sprayed that surfboard. Time to peel off the masking and see how we look here. There we go. Got a nice little stripe right down the middle of it. Just one little spot I have to touch up there, but I'm going to let that cure up, and then I will go to clear coat, and that's going to be a nice contrast to the car there, I think. Okay, so next up I want to prepare parts for painting. So I always like to put my engine together, at least the sections that are going to be the same color, such as the block. And the oil pan on this one, for example, will be Chevy red. So I'm just cleaning up the sprue a little bit, and then I'm just going to use some Tamiya thin cement. Awesome glue. Okay, so I got the block, water pump, bell housing, and oil pan all put together, and I'm going to just paint that Tamiya Red X7. So I'll be right back. I'm going to do that off screen. Okay, so I've been working on bare metal foil quite extensively. 1957 Chevy had quite a bit of it. Did that off camera. Actually, I did it on a live stream. So if you want to roll back and look at my live stream from February 3rd, it's about a 3-hour live stream, and I worked on the bare metal foil here. So quite a bit of it done. I still got a little bit more to do, but I got the window trim done, I got the sides done, got the spears done in the back. Got to roll around and do this side a little bit here. So got my rockers done. Looking good, looking good. Okay, so I'm going to finish up the bare metal foil and I'll be back. Okay, so next up is going to be a multicolored paint session, and I'm going to do it all in one session, and I'll just be running some water through my brush to flush out each color. I'm going to start with my lightest color and go to my darkest. So I'm going to be spraying aluminum on the heads. I'm going to be spraying tungsten on my exhaust and transmission and rear end cover. And then I'm going to be going to black. And I'm going to be spraying flat black primer. And I'm going to hit the engine compartment, the chassis, the front of the interior bucket, because some of this might show on the bottom side, radiator support, and all these little details. Now, some of these I want to be gloss, and some of these I want to be flat. So I'm going to spray flat everywhere. And then when I go to clear coat, I can spray the flat parts clear, and I'll have my gloss black. So I'll meet you at the booth, and we'll go through a little session there. And I'm going to be using just the Kaleido water-based products, which are easy to use and easy to flush out of the gun for each step. So, all right, meet you at the booth. Okay, so I'm going to be spraying with 0.3 millimeter nozzle and needle combination at about 20 psi. And I'm starting out with my lightest color, aluminum. Only need a couple drops because the only thing getting aluminum is going to be the two heads there. And I'll speed this up, but I'll note each color as I go along. And in between each color, I'm just flushing a little bit of warm water through the gun. Okay, so I sprayed that matte black primer, and that's the first time I sprayed that. I gotta say, I like it. It's a very nice matte finish, so that is good if you want to do like a matte black on your hood or something, or even a matte black body. So that's the Kaleido Matte Black Primer. Looks really good. So one thing I'm going to do now that I should have done before I even thought about getting started on this is, if you notice on this Firewall, they got these huge cutouts. And that is for a big hinge that I'm not going to be using. This hinge here glues to the bottom of the hood and sticks through the Firewall, and then is held in place by the interior tub. But, you know, it's not even real looking in the first place, so I'm not going to use that. But I don't want those big gaping holes in there either. So I'm just going to take some flat styrene. And what I did is I just stuck it up in there, traced it out with a pencil. So now I'll cut around that, and I'll glue that to the back. It's going to be inset a little bit, but it won't be a big gaping hole. And then when I go to paint my interior color, I can paint that faded yellow, because that's just kind of bothering me. That's going to take away from the looks. Plus, you know, if I want to put a master cylinder, brake cylinder in there, you know, there's not even a place to mount it with those big holes. So I'm just going to cut that out and glue that in, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm adding just a little bit of rust streaks to the side of the car. Add a little bit more to the patina. So I'm using Vallejo Wash FX, and it's just a red oxide watered down wash. So I'm very carefully taking a detailed paintbrush here and another brush that has a little bit of better bristles, and this one's dry, but you can do it wet or dry, it just depends on the effect you want. So I'm taking my little detail brush, and let's say I want a little streak coming from where these little spears are here. I'll just get a little dab on there, and then I'll take my other brush and just streak it down. Very faint. And I've already done it in a couple other spots here. And it just adds to the effect, so I'll get a little bit more on here. Like where these two chrome pieces meet, I'm sure water gets caught behind there. So it's just a little dot, and then drag it down with another brush. And you could wet this one just, or dampen it a little bit if you needed to, like if you felt like you went on too strong, because it's water-based, it'll wash right off with water too. But a wetter brush will, you know, if you think you went too intense, you can back off a little bit. But you know, I like those little streaks. I think that they add to the realism. So I'm going to do a few more of those around here.
Here's a couple still pictures of the car. And if you notice, I also went over parts of the bare metal foil too to tone that down a little bit. And I decided that it's not going to need to be dull coated or anything, because just that rust effect toned that bare metal foil down and looks pretty natural.
Okay, so now I'm working on the headlights and tail lights. So I got the buckets glued into the front here, and I'm going to tone those down with a little bit of wash, but I thought I would get the rear done too at the same time. So before I install those, I am going to use a little bit of clear red for the taillights. So I'm just going to dip in paintbrush and fill that in a little bit. Okay, got one of them done. Okay, got both of them done now. Now I want to detail out the grill there. I want to get some black in there. And instead of using the panel liner from Tamiya, I want that to be a little darker. So I'm going to be using some black velvet waterproof India ink. And this is a water-based ink. So I poured a little bit into a cap here. And with a pipette, I'm going to pull up, this is windshield washer fluid. And I use that to thin my craft paints when I go through the airbrush, or even if I'm going to brush paint. So I'm just going to pull up some of that and mix it. Oh, probably 50-50. And this is what I used when I did these fins, and I darkened these fins up a little bit. That's what I used too, was the India ink. So I'm going to just stir that up a little bit. It's messy, so be careful. Get black everywhere. Okay, so now I'm going to get a detail brush here and just start painting that into my grill. It's just a little thicker than using the Tamiya panel liner. So in essence, I should be able to get this in one coat. With the panel liner, I might have had to gone several coats. Okay, I'm just gonna let that dry for a while, and then we'll see if I need a second coat, but then I'll probably take a Q-tip and just kind of burnish the top of the grills to keep them shiny. So we'll be back. Okay, so I got some clear red into my taillights, and then on the back bumper, I just took a little bit of silver where the backup lights are gonna go. And now I'm going to treat it with my most newest favorite treatment, and that is clear UV resin. So you buy this kit here, I don't know, it's way under 20 bucks. I think it's like 12 bucks. And I'll have a link in my description along with everything else I use. But I'll just put a little bit in a cap here of the resin, and it's sort of syrupy. It's got like a syrupy thickness to it. Okay, and then I'm going to get a toothpick, and right where this clear is, I'm going to go over the top of the clear and just dab this in and kind of fill that up. It has a nice little surface tension, so you can like fill it to like a little dome shape. But it gives you the nicest looking lenses. Great for your dashboard, great for lights. In fact, if you ever lost a red lens or something, I'll tell you what, between the clear red from Tamiya and this treatment here with the UV resin, you'd be hard pressed to tell that that wasn't a plastic clear piece. Okay, so one of them got a nice little surface tension in there. Now I'm going to get the backup light. And I also did a little flat black where the exhaust pipes come out, the exhaust tips. I'm just going to get a little clear inside these backup lights. It almost has a consistency of maple syrup, which means that it holds on really nice to the toothpick and forms like a little tiny ball on it. Once you're happy with that, we'll put our UV resin on here. I'm going to go 3 minutes, which is 150 seconds. You got between 60, 90, and 150 seconds. And I like to always go with the high end of that. So, all right, we're just going to let that run. And don't look at that light either. It's not really good for your eyes. Okay, so the resin has cured. Pardon the paint all over my hands, but you see there's a nice little lens in there now. And same with the backup lights. Just better than leaving it bare. I'll get a nice photograph of these two. Okay, so the grill India ink has cured or dried. Didn't take too long, about a half hour. So I'm just going to take a Q-tip here and kind of just burnish along. I'm using a rigid one that doesn't get into the nooks and crannies. And I'm just wiping, just getting in there and burnishing the top of the grill. And that's bringing out the top chrome, leaving the black in the insets. And you can also like remove it from where, like I accidentally got some on top of the bumper here. So you can actually burnish that away. And if necessary, you could use a little alcohol on your Q-tip there. And then I also used flat Tamiya black on the rubbers of those little bumper barrettes there. But I like that little finish. Okay.
Okay, so next up, I used a little super glue to glue the taillight fins on there, and there is no positive placement for that, so you do have to be careful. I just put a couple very small little drops right on the edge of that back of the body, and then carefully laid the taillight right on top and let that set.
And there's no good way to hold it with tweezers or anything, so I'm just gonna put that in place by hand, and just put a little pressure on it for a few seconds, hopefully not gluing my finger to it.
And then next up, I masked off the carpet and the back floor mat of the interior tub that I had previously painted with the matte black primer, and masked that off. And now I am spraying a matte white primer, and that'll be the white of my interior. It'll be two-toned, just like the outside of the car, so it's going to be a pale yellow and white. So I'm just lightly airbrushing in the white. Next, I turned the car upside down and carefully laid it on a microfiber towel not to scratch up the paint, even if it is patinaed. And I'm just using a little Mod Podge. I got the glass placed into the car, and I'm just going to put little dots of Mod Podge around the edges and kind of work it in so it's going to glue in place. And, you know, it takes about 10-15 minutes to dry up, but it'll dry clear.
Okay, so next up, I'm going to dress up this Monogram interior just a little bit here. It's very poorly defined on the door cards. You know, there are no armrests, there's no window cranks. They are molded in. You can barely see them. It almost looks like Braille. So certainly not realistic. There's no place to put your arm really or anything. But Model Maker's Workshop, which supplied me with some nice 3D printed stuff here. So we got some armrest and door pulls here, assorted sizes and whatnot. So I painted a couple up to match the interior. And then also they've got a bunch of little window cranks and door pulls or whatnot here, door latches, which I pre-chromed a couple days ago with my fusion firm. I just brushed that onto them. Very delicate, but you can break them away with a pair of tweezers or whatever. Just be very careful not to fling them away. I did fling one on my carpet, and amazingly, I found it right away. Picked it up with my tweezers to put it on my workbench, and it flinged again. Never to be seen again. So, anyways, so
I'm going to use UV resin as my glue. And the reason for that is white glue, I'm afraid, might not hold enough. And later on, once the model's assembled, if they come loose, it's just going to rattle around in the car and drive you nuts. And super glue, you know, it can make a mess and it doesn't set right away. So what's nice about this is it's kind of sticky. So I'm going to use that with a little toothpick and apply a little bit of glue to it, or resin, and carefully put my parts in place. And then I will put my UV light on there for about 3 minutes, and that'll all be glued firmly into place.
all right, so next up, and I have to tell you, sometimes the decisions are a little more painful on certain aspects of the build when you're doing a Patina car. But like the glass has been installed, and I probably should have done this beforehand, but the glass has been installed and it's perfect. I mean, it's very clear, it's very shiny, it's like perfect glass. But then again, it's a Patina car, so really, would this car have survived all these years and have all brand new windows? Not very realistic, you know. Maybe a new windshield, maybe a new window here or there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fog them up a little bit, very lightly, and that's going to allow me to do stuff like I can write surfs up or something on the back window, like somebody would do if a car was all dusty. So what I'm going to do to use that is I'm going to use Createx UVLS Clear. It's matte clear number 4052. And it's a water-based product. And I'm going to thin that a little bit with their 4011 thinner. And I'm going to just airbrush that on ever so lightly, right on the kit. I'm going to turn my airbrush way down so I don't blast the model, because I don't want to dull down my chrome or anything else. So we're going to hit that. And at the same time, this dashboard, I was working on another kit here. I was working on my GTX, and I just happened to have some extra paint, and I hand painted the interior of the car. I thought, well, let me just hit the dashboard with the other paint. It looks similar, but it's too far off. So I'm going to just scuff this up a little bit. And when I painted the interior, that was a custom mix I did, water-based acrylics. So I got a little bit in a bottle here. So I'm going to re-airbrush this as well. So we'll meet you at the booth.
So I'm using my Gaahleri GHAD 39, and I've got that matte clear in the airbrush, and I'm spraying about 20 psi pressure, and I'm just dusting that on ever so light, almost no throttle whatsoever. And I'm also hitting the chrome parts like the bumper and the front grille there a little bit, ever so lightly, and only from the top, just to kind of oxidize the look of that shiny chrome a little bit. Very light. I'm just going to hit one coat on everything, including the glass. So I'll speed this up and you can see the process. Okay, then after a couple hours, it didn't take too long for that to dry since I fogged it in so much. I'm using a rigid little Q-tip that I got there, and I'm just carving in the words "Surf's Up." I thought that would look kind of cool on the back of the car there.
Okay, gonna assemble the wheels. Just a little dot of super glue inside the rim here. A little dot of glue. Drop the mag inside there. Push it in till it seats. And then just a little dab where the hub goes. And there you go. Okay, and then of course we'll glue the wheels. Get your wide ones and your thin ones. So what I'll do there is I'll just put a dab of glue inside the tire. Just slide that in from the front. Make sure it lines up real good. And that's it, just let that set. And I weathered it a little bit too. You know, it's going to be driving on the beach and stuff, so I used a little bit of khaki. I airbrushed onto the tire to kind of dirty it up a little bit.
Okay, so all the components have now been painted, so we're going to start assembling everything. I'll go to fast forward and put some music to it. Okay, we're just about at the end here, and just before I was putting that interior and chassis into the body, I decided that it just looked a little bit too bright. So I decided to get out my weathering powders, and this is from my model railroad, so I can't even remember when I bought it, but it was a good 20 years ago that I got it. But these are just little sooty, rusty colors, very ground up, fine stuff that you just spread around with a brush and brush on, and you know, it just really patinaed up that interior. You know, it's not all jagged, it's not all ripped up or anything, but it's not super bright and clean like it looked. I just thought that was a little bit too clean for what the build is. So anyways, that was a lot of fun. Kind of dirtied it up a little bit. Okay, then for my not so favorite part of every build, it was time to marry the chassis to the body. Although this time it really did go pretty smooth. You know, I just had to pry that body open just a little bit to get it to slide into place, and then real careful with the engine fitting into the engine compartment. Okay, then what I did is I just separated the back a little bit with something so that I could space that out a little bit, and put a couple dabs of super glue in there, pulled out my spacer, and just squeezed those together for a few minutes to set. And once I pinched that together, I let it set for a good 5-10 minutes just to make sure it all set up real good. And then I went to the front and did the same thing. A couple dots of glue, and I squeezed and clamped that together for a few minutes. And next up, it was time to fit the rear bumper, so first I dry fitted it into place. It looked like it fit pretty good, so I put a couple dots of super glue on there and just reattached that and let it sit for a few minutes. And finally, I did the front bumper the same way. I didn't catch that on camera, but here we are. We're ready for the reveal. Okay, this was one of my funner kits to build. I do always love every opportunity to do a patina build. This one I envisioned looking just like this from the moment I bought it. You know, it wasn't the best fit and finish kit that I've ever seen, but really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be either from all the warnings that I got from everybody. I think the patina helps kind of hide that a little bit, but in all, I think it looks pretty good, and I do believe I could have made a clean version look pretty good too. So anyways, you know, here's a couple shots of it. And then I did something really interesting. I asked ChatGPT to put that in a scene on the beach with palm trees and surfboards around, and I tell you what, I was very impressed. Look what that was able to do. And then finally, here is a view of the car on the 360 spin table. The surfboard up that you see on top is just a little bit of masking tape painted black and some little chrome belt buckles, 3D printed belt buckles for seat belts, actually, for harness. And I just taped them on there, and it looks pretty good. So a lot of fun.